Hey everybody, it's your best friend Drew Dracy, and I have some more comics from my spinner rack. Either comics I've yanked from my spinner rack or ones that I just bought from Dave's Comics, and will find a nice home in my spinner rack. So let's get to this. This is kind of a obscure book for Iron Man fans. It was a two-issue, part one of two. It called The Iron Age. It's an Iron Man story written by Kurt Busiek, who was writing Iron Man at the time as well as the Avengers, and Pat Zerker, who was still fairly new, but he did a few pages of Birds of Prey that I inked to help on a deadline. And Bob McLeod, I always call him McLeod because of the spelling, but it's McLeod on the inks. So anything he inks is just magic. So, and he's got that big old enraged water heater look to him. So I love that look. So, but, love that. All that little tiny art from Tales of Suspense. Pat Zerker does some really neat imagery here, and I like that the color is restrained. And yet it's clear. Like, these people behind Pepper Potts, they're not 100% opacity. They're like maybe 60% or 70%. So it gives that distance. Very much like a camera. And I think comics would be better off that way. So this is Pepper Potts' origin, basically, with the when she got hired by Tony Stark. And it's well done. So she got the raise. Your position comes with extremely hefty raise. Oh yes. I hate that lettering down there. That was during when they decided to go crazy with the Richard Stark stuff and make the lettering almost important as the artwork, and or is audacious, I guess. So we jump around back and forth. Have some backdrop here. Saboteur. A little too 90s of a character, though, because that old, water heater, that tub of Iron Man with the skirt, he looks so dated, and they should have maybe somehow pulled back a little bit on that design, but it's still neat. I still like it a lot. And that color is sweet. Who did the color? Let's see real quick. Glennis Oliver, aka Glennis Wine. No wonder I've always sung her praises. She's been around a long time. She was married to Len Wein for a long time. But so you're seeing a lot of talking head pages, and there's so much going on. Busiek tends to get really chatty, and sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. When rereading the George Perez issues he did with it, I found Busiek could have reined himself in a little bit as far as copy, and it kind of competed with George Perez's art too much. So 1/3 of this book is a lot of blah blah blah, and I don't mind the blah 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 if it's riveting blah blah blah. It's well written. So there we go. That's what he came here for. So I mean, because he's costumes like stuck in the '60s, and she's '90s badass bad girl, and I know they retrofitted his origin to be with the in the Gulf War and not the Vietnam War. Boy, is that nice! I'd love to see a series done by Pat Zerker, and I would ink it. So he's like he's trying to make it interesting, but a couple of points kind of made me lose interest. Armor and Silver Streak. Okay, this is Neil Adams' self-published book from Continuity Studios, which is Neil Adams' studios in New York City, where he and Dick Giordano co-founded it in the early 70s, and a lot of mega talents have passed through. A lot of great anchors like Klaus Janson, like Terry Austin, like Bob Layton, and many others as far as anchors, but there's also a ton of pencilers like Mike Nasser. There's so many others, and I can't think exactly who, but you can always look it up. Love this cover. I love that costume. My problem is, though, Neil, as a plotter or writer of his own stuff, it's it's pretty, but it's not. It's just not that interesting. And the problem was he was trying to self-publish, but they came out so infrequently. I think what was it, Ms. Mystic or something took like 8 years to get out, 6 issues or something like that. I may be wrong, but and then later on, when crossovers and mega events happened in the early 90s during Speculator Boom, then all of a sudden, Neil and Continuity Comics, they decided that, well, we're going to do this huge crossover with, our two good titles and the other shitty ones. And I'm sorry if I'm besmirching Neil Adams. I'm not. I'm just saying the self-published comics suffer a lot because they came out so infrequently that it just wasn't satisfying. And also the stories are solid. They're just not, I don't know. For the art, you'd think they would be better stories, stronger stories. Now this is Neil Adams doing the original story and the writing, and pencils by Tom Greenberg and ink by Rudy Nebres, who's in a lot of these. Corey Adams does the color, real nice job. Is that Gasper Saladino? Yeah, longtime DC letterer. That's great that they used him. This came out in 1987. So beautiful. Rudy Nebres is in a lot of these books, and he's got sort of like the same approach / attitude when it comes to inking as Neil. Now, Tom Greenberg, he is a chameleon. About this time, he did X Factor Annual #1, which was a heavily Neil Adams influenced issue. And then later on, like in the mid 80s, he did like a Mike Mignola style, which really worked well. So nice colors, nice art, and the story is okay. It's nothing frightfully new. And I'm not saying you have to. I mean, I like fan service like anybody else. It's just frustrating there wasn't a lot. There we go. Yeah, cool stuff. But it's disappointing that the whole story came out in dribs and drabs, and then you took up in the stories. The script isn't that interesting to keep you wanting to go back and double check what happened. And boy, there's a lot of panels there. Could have been split into 2 pages. So it's neat. It's just that I've said all I had to say. Now, comic book, I did not. I picked this up in the $2 bin, and I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up. It is a fan publication that came out. This issue, number 3 or something, no, number 5, came out around 1971 or 72. Right before DC Comics started publishing the original Captain Marvel under the name Shazam. They couldn't use Captain Marvel because Marvel published during the years he wasn't being published. Marvel decided to use the name Captain Marvel, and so they would own it. They didn't want the competition to have a character named Captain Marvel, because it'd be like saying Marvel having a Captain DC. Get what I'm saying? So this guy, I can't remember his name. It's like Bob Hanley, I think. So this is just pure love and pure fun. And he did, like I said, he did 5 issues at least. And he was part of the fanzine scene. And he's just having a lot of fun with these publicly owned characters. But he twists them a little bit sometimes. They're sitting there having a beer or coffee. Oh, actually, he wants coffee. Love the style too. There's some styles, parts of it that it's very cartoony, which is what you want, and I really dig it. There's Nixon, hand puppet talking to him. So, and then there's the Mighty Buggers. little like funny animal stuff. But just go. Here we go. A spread of all kinds of comics and teeny tiny photocopies pasted together, because that's how you did it back then in the early 70s. There wasn't any Photoshop going on. So this is, the guy is just so in love with comics, and it just really amazing. I like how he draws this character, kind of Wally Wood style. And it's tremendous fun. It's like, oh, here we go. A second. Friday, and the fans and friends of fantasy FFF meet. Hi, Pat. Hello, Mrs. Pebbles. Here's some donuts, Billy. Thanks for inviting us to look at the old comics. He goes, yeah, meet some of the FFF. There's Billy Spicer and Rich Kyle and Super Son and Batboy. Mark Evanier as Captain America Jr., and Alan Light as Kid Quick. Now, these two guys, Mark Evanier he was an assistant to Jack Kirby. He was a local friend. He was a kid. And he says being an assistant meant just kind of keeping something straight for Kirby, in order when he was doing the New Gods. And then Alan Light, he published the Comics Buyer's Guide, but the original title was something different. And so they were heavy hitters. So this was mail order only. And probably at the local shop it was available, like by the register. It's fun. It's fun. Fun. So, yeah, this guy, I mean, he was a commercial artist, and he was quite accomplished, but he did this strictly out of love. He wasn't looking for big money or anything. And Bluebird, Power Comics, I've covered in the past. Cobalt Blue, which Mike Gostovich, it first showed up here, and then a couple years later, well, like a decade later actually, Innovation brought back Cobalt Blue. And I love the costume, I love the name, and this is Bluebird. It's a Bluebird. It's Bluebird. The color's a little harsh there, but this issue, her first fight. So it'd be funny if there was like a team. It was like a partner, like a cloak and dagger, like their first fight. It's like, honey, you forgot to get the groceries. It's our first fight. Power Comics, not to be confused with Power Comics, which were the book and records that came out in the early to mid 70s with Marvel, DC, and some other books. Book and 45 that would read along with the story. So I find this to be a lot of fun. I have a couple other Power Comics, and it just didn't go anywhere. The cover is like the same kind of stock. It's not shiny, just a little thicker. And here we go. We got Joe Zabel and Mike Gustovich and William F. Loebs. So you got Bill Loebs, a big heavy hitter there. Oh, wow. I have that Northern Light issue. I have that first one, Power Comics, and that's what I have right now. So, and the art's clear, and the writing is actually pretty solid. And you're seeing that Gustovich is getting himself comfortable storytelling, and there's not a lot of backgrounds per se, but it's not needed right now because he's just learning how to storytell, and you do kind of need a establishing shot, but he'll give it to you once in a while, and that's fine. Bluebird. And there's ads in there to help pay for the comic, which is smart business, and really enjoyable. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, it's great to see people in the larva state of their of their career. Night Witch and Bluebird. And this is by, I don't know. There we go. And finally, Peter Parker, A Spectacular Spider-Man. I was still buying this book at this time, even though it seemed like Al Milgrom, when he took over the writing, it got a little, not that, I just started to lose interest. And I think I bought the book up until issue 100 and I dropped it. So Fred Hembeck, fan favorite artist since 77, 78. He published his own book called Hembeck and Hembeck 2, Bride of Abbott and Costello Meet the Bride of Hembeck. And those are so good and endlessly rereadable. So what happened is, for Assistant Editors Month, which is a month where the main editors are going out to San Diego, and so the assistant editors, they come up with these cool ideas that are very different, very out of. And some of the stories, like New Mutants, Chris Claremont was in the middle of this really serious, uh, storyline in dealing with ancient Rome, and there was a new mutant who came along called Magma. So they just had the letters page had something wacky in it, but the squiggly knees of Fred Hembeck. I love that. I don't believe they got Fred Hembeck to draw this issue. Yeah, I love those knees. Look, Jose Albello is inking Hembeck. That's pretty cool. So it starts off with Al Milgrom, the usual creator, just storming into the office. And I love this cartoony version of him. I really wish we'd see a lot more of that. Because at this point in his career, I think that was his strength. So he's like, I'm talking about Bob Donatale. And he goes, what's going on? Just because Figueroth is at the beach in California. And so he goes, I had a vision, like a vision in this issue. Someone call? What? But Bill and I are a team. The best is Bill and Geis, or Bill and Hannigan, or Bill and Leonardi. That's right. This is still Bill Mantlo writing. And he's just showing these proposed pages. Here comes Fred Hembeck. I love when they combine different styles on like the same page. He's like, Eureka! This is beautiful. And there we go, Bill Mantlo story. Bugs, Fearsome Fly. He first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 10. And then the only other time I'd seen him was Amazing Spider-Man 193, I think, something like that. So he really wasn't around a lot. I love the colors. And he's got these wings that he can go real fast and hit you with a sonic blast. And he's got segmented eyes so he can see all around. Like, he can't sneak up on a guy whose compound eyes and let him see 360, or whose vibrating wings can create an ultrasonic backlash to drive you away. And what's great is this is in continuity. It's not a what do they call those? An imaginary tale or a what if. So the fly is devolving. He's at this garbage scout. He's eating garbage like a fly does, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I gotta Jameson and Spider-Man, I owe them. And the ongoing soap opera with Spider-Man and Black Cat continues, and it's a real. It really tells you how Hembeck is a great storyteller. It's a real tribute to how strong his abilities are as a storyteller. And there's a lot going on here, but there's no cheating. So we get a moment that's inspired by an early Steve Ditko Stan Lee story, where they're by the news press. The presses had pressing the printing paper of the newspaper. And now they do the final segment with Al Milgrom and Jim Mooney. Jim Mooney does such a nice job on Spider-Man. So that's it. Do you have this issue? If you're a Hembeck fan, did you love this issue when it came out when you were a kid? Did you hate it or whatnot? And what do you think of this stuff too? It's tremendous fun. It was just it's like rare, treasure. And Armor and Silver Streak, great, but could have used a different writer. Iron Age, so. And then Bluebird, if you know anything about Power Comics, that's pretty neat. They're like I said, it's like the birthplace of a lot of fan favorite artists and writers that come up through that, and just like a lot of indies do. That's why I love buying these old books, because you see creators who are, they're starting out in the what do they call that? The minor leagues, And that's it. You have a great day, everybody. Bye.